Second book of Samuel, session 25. In the previous chapter, we saw all the hypocrisy and the conspiracy against the kingdom of David. We saw how Absalom and Ahithophel were conspiring against David, but how David actually kissed Absalom. But the same kiss with which he wanted to bring reconciliation, with that kiss, Absalom kissed the 10 tribes and has successfully stolen the tribes from David. And now they have made Absalom king. They've got the false trumpet sound, and David is in trouble. So in this section, we're going to learn about the flight of David from Jerusalem. Verse 14 from 2 Samuel chapter 15. David said unto all his servants that were with him at Jerusalem, Arise, let us flee, for we were with him at Jerusalem. Arise, let us flee, for we shall not escape from Absalom. Make speed to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly, and bring evil upon us, and smite the city with the edge of the sword. So for David, it's more important that his city keeps on standing. David will sacrifice himself. He will take all his loyal servants away from him. He will go in hiding, as long as Absalom then has no reason to destroy the entire city. And here we see how David's biggest enemy is from his own loins. It is his own son. And the king's servants said unto the king, Behold, your servants are ready to do whatever my lord the king shall appoint. And maybe we can take a highlighter and we can underline this in our Bibles, so we can also, as the king's servant, say unto our king, Behold, we are your servants, and we are ready to go with you. We are your servants, and we are ready to go with you, and to do whatever you, our Lord, the king, will appoint. And that might even include fleeing from the Antichrist Absalom system that wants to destroy everything that is related to David. And the king went forth, and all his household after him. And the king left 10 women, his concubines, to keep the house. So David leaves of all his concubines that he had. Maybe he had more. I haven't counted all his concubines. Maybe they weren't even all written down. But it's very prophetic for me that he leaves 10 women behind. And we always know that 10 is a representation of the 10 lost tribes, and women is a representation of the church. So is this maybe a pointing to the direction of the that is scattered into all the earth? And the king, King David, is hidden, he's away, and the Antichrist is currently ruling with these conspiracies and with all the stolen hearts of the rest of the world that is against the kingdom of David and following after Absalom. And this always has massive messianic and end-day prophecies in for me. And also, it didn't disappoint, because looking at this 10 women that King David left to look after the house, like the shepherds or the laborers in the field or his servants that he leaves. He goes away and he leaves hopefully his 10 lost tribes will remember the covenant with Abraham and come back in covenant with Father. But before that happens, there will be a persecution of the church. There will be a raping of the church. There will be a raping, a destruction, a murdering, a killing by the Absalom Antichrist against these 10 women. And we actually see this happening in chapter 16, verse 22. Let's read from verse 21. At the Ahithophel, the Ahithophel, my brother that's a fool, in his conspiracy with Absalom, gives him counsel in verse 20. But this is the satanic counsel. This is the advice. This is what the dragon is telling the beast, the Antichrist, to do. Go in unto your father's concubines. How many concubines? Chapter 15, verse 16. 10 women, his concubines. So Ahithophel is telling Absalom, go to the 10 concubines which your father has left to keep the house. And Israel will hear that you have abhorred of your father. Then shall the hands of all that are with you be strong. So they spread Absalom's tent upon the top of the house. And Absalom went into his father's concubines to the 10. He raped the 10 concubines of his father David in the sight of all Israel. Here we have the Antichrist raping the 10 lost tribes that has been left to keep the house while our King David is fleeing. And in the sight of all Israel, in the sight of all the world, the Antichrist will seem to be successful. He will seem to have taken the place of King David. It will seem that he has overpowered those who are still loyal to King David, those who are supposed to be married to King David. But here we have the 10 concubine women. They're not actually married because the 10 lost tribes are not married. They are seen as the bride, yes, to covenant, but also when they endure to the end. And if they understand that a raping and a persecution might even end up following, they still keep loyal and remain loyal to King David. Although there will be a period in which the 10 tribes in their scattering into all the earth has been maybe not seen as raped, but seen as sleeping with a husband, with the Antichrist as a false husband. You know, the Bible calls idolatry is as the act of adultery. So when the divorced 10 northern tribes are sleeping with the false gods and the false religions of this world, all the world is seeing it. The tent is at the top of the house, and all the land can see how Absalom has David, even so much as sleeping, having intercourse, being in covenant with the 10 concubines. It's an amazing prophetic picture, this for me. And the king went forth, and all the people after him, and he tarried in a place that was far off, that was far away. Where is our King David now? Is he here while the Antichrist is busy sleeping around with all the world in which the 10 tribes are scattered? And those that doesn't want to sleep with him, he'll end up raping them in sight of all the people. Where the Antichrist has taken the place of King David, the throne, his tent is at the top of King David's house. All of Israel sees how he's sleeping with the church, how the 10 tribes are going into his tent and not following King David. So this is a huge Antichrist, seemingly victory, not over King David's throne, not over only over King David's kingdom, but over King David's wives, his brides, his concubines, those women that belonged to him. But when these 10 women wake up, when the 10 lost tribes, the divorced wife wakes up and she turns back to Yahweh and she remembers the covenant and she becomes a warrior bride. She is now the 10 men of 2 Samuel chapter 18, verse 15, and 10 young men that bore Joab's armor encircled Absalom and slew him. He raped the 10 lost tribes of Israel. But here the 10 lost tribes have woken up. They have repented of their sleeping with the enemy, standing up, bearing the armor of God. And they're going to slew or smote or kill the Antichrist that is in their tent, that's in their midst. Here these 10 men are killing Absalom, and it's prophetic of us, the 10 tribes, killing the idea of the Antichrist, that he is not King David. He is the Antichrist. He's not the real king. He doesn't have the real trumpet. He's not rightfully sitting on the throne. And all those that are sleeping with him and staying with him in his tent will be killed by these 10 young men that follows after Joab and follows after King David. How the 10 raped concubines are standing up to become the 10 warrior brides. Oh, it's beautiful. So the king is far away. The king is far off. While he's far away, the 10 are being deceived. The king went forth and all the people after him and tarried in the place that was far off. And of course, this also is prophetic because we, as the servants who follows King David, yes, there are the lost 10 tribes that are still being raped by the Antichrist. But you also have the faithful, loyal servants that follow after King David wherever he goes, and that says, we will follow you. We will do what you tell us to do. You are our Lord and our King. And although there is trouble in the land, although it will be safer for us to, rather go to Absalom and maybe, switch sides, because eventually we are just a small group and we are now fleeing away with our King David, which is now old and sick. And maybe we will not survive. Maybe it's better to go to Absalom. But there's a certain kind of servant that will, no matter the personal cost to them, no matter that we have to go far away and go in hiding, no matter that we are not in the city of Jerusalem where everything seems to happen. Although it seems we are not in the kingdom, everybody's telling us you belong to a cult. You've got no chance in this world. Rather just come back to the church system where the 10 are sleeping with Absalom, the Antichrist. It's safer, it's better, especially when Absalom starts ruling. He will destroy you if you don't bow before him, like the book of Revelation says. And all his servants passed on beside him, all the Cherethites, the Pelethites, the Gittites, 600 men, which came after him from Gath, passed on before the king. Do you remember when David, in the beginning, as we went through the beautiful history of David fleeing from Saul, wasn't it exactly 600 men that he had with him all the time? Didn't we read about these brave 600 men all the time? And here David is fleeing again. Here David has his 600 men with him. The 600 loyal remnant that God even says to the prophet Elijah, you are never alone. None of us are ever alone, even when it looks hopeless and there is no chance for us to survive. We must remember, we are never alone. God always has a remnant that follows after the truth. Then said the king to Ittai the Gittite, wherefore do you go with us? Return to the place and abide with the king. David is already referring to Absalom as the king, because the Bible refers to Satan as the ruler of this world. The Bible already says that we mustn't have any naive ideas. The Antichrist is naive ideas. The Antichrist is ruling. Satan is the prince of the darkness of the kingdom of this world. Yeshua didn't tell Satan you are lying when Satan said, I'll give you all the kingdoms of the earth if you bow before me. Because the Bible is honest about this, and King David is honest, talking about Absalom as if he is the king. So Ittai the Gittite, David says, go back to Absalom. You are a stranger. You are also an exile. We are strangers in this world. We are in exile still. We have not been taken back by Joshua and Moses to the promised land. We are still wandering in the wilderness. We are going through the difficult journey of the wilderness. We are in exile. It's better go back. We are in the Antichrist, satanic beast, New World Order system. We cannot leave it. We cannot leave it. We cannot jump up and be raptured up to heaven. There's no rapture. We cannot go and necessarily all of us hide away. Some of us have to return. We have to stay in this system. David continues in verse 20, whereas you came but yesterday, should I this day make you go up and down with us? Seeing I go whither I may, return you, go back to your brethren. Mercy and truth be with you. So Yahuwah, the king, Yeshua, the son of King David. Yahuwah's kingdom is all about mercy, but it's also about truth. Mercy and truth, according to Psalm 80, must kiss each other. And it's difficult. We all have learned that it's God's mercy that saved us from death through the blood of Messiah. It's because those who transgress the Torah must die. How can truth and legal justice be served through God's mercy? God cannot be like a unlawful judge that, um, a swai that shoves around his magic wand and say, "Oh, I've got mercy on you. You are forgiven." No, justice and truth must still be served. And here, Yahuwah, King David, is sending back some of us who are still in exile, who are still strangers. The 10 concubines have been scattered into exile into all the earth, into the Gentile, strange nations, tribes, and tongues. We are stuck in this Antichrist system. But what goes with us? Mercy and truth is with us. And when we walk in God's mercy, upholding God's truth, even though it seems hopeless in a world that is ruled and reigned by Absalom, and all the churches are sleeping with him, and all the people are seeing it, and they think, oh, well, then he must be the true Christ because all the churches are sleeping with him. Then those who are like Itahi, the Gittite, the exile, the stranger, maybe then we are the ones that needs to mercifully uphold the truth. And maybe for a time we are sent back into the system. Maybe like Esther, not to tell everybody who we are, but to serve as Yahuwah, as King David's loyal servants. Maybe for a time such as this, we are put back into the system. Some of us have to survive within the system, within the cities. Not all of us might be able to flee. Not all of us might be able to get away. Us might be able to flee. Not all of us might be able to get away. Not all of us might be able to, what is the words I'm looking for? Might be the witnesses that are running around through the streets to the ends of the earth in the last days. Some of us dying by the sword, by flame, by captivity, by spoil, many days, like Daniel 11 says, earning our white clothes for our King. But not all of us are there. Some of us might have to return to the very inside of the system and serve there like Esther was on the inside of the Babylonian king. She was in his palace, and that's where she served. That's where she had to be. Although nobody even knew she was a Jew, she still had a job to do there, not to save herself, but to save her people. Back in the system that is ruled by Absalom. And Ittai answered the king and said, "As the Lord lives, and as my lord the king lives, surely in what place my lord the king shall be, whether in death or life, even there also will I be with you." How many times has Yeshua said, "Blessed are those who endure to the end." Like in Joshua's time, what you tell your servants, that we shall do. Joshua and King David being messianic, symbolic pictures of Yeshua. We will follow you in life and death, because we know that if we struggle to keep our lives, we will lose it. But if we're willing to die to ourselves and even die in the flesh, then we will save our lives, because our lives are hidden in you, our Lord, our King. Yeshua confirms this for us in Matthew, our King. Yeshua confirms this for us in Matthew chapter 16, verse 24. He said to his disciples, "If any man will come after me, like the men that came after King David, let him deny himself." Deny yourself and all your rights and all your comforts and all your doctrines. Deny. Deny your sinful self, your selfish nature. Take up your execution stake, just like I did. For the sake of the kingdom of Yahuwah, for the sake of my kingdom, I've taken up the execution stake. You take up the execution stake. because then you can follow me, then you can be like me, then you can serve the kingdom like I'm serving the kingdom. For whoever will save his life will lose it, and whoever will lose his life for my sake will find it. Itahi, if you will your life because you will serve me, and both your life and my life will end up victorious. Joshua continues in Matthew 16, what shall it profit man if he gains the whole world, but he loses his soul? For the Son of Man will come in the glory of his Father with his angels, and then shall he reward every man according to his works. Itahi, work for me. Itahi, do what I'm asking you. Take up your cross, deny yourself. Follow me, but not follow me in hiding. Follow me by being my faithful, loyal servant, enduring to the end, like the 10 camels that is given water by Rebekah to find the bride, to bring the bride for Isaac back home, the son of Abraham. Go back. Maybe you'll lose your life, but you will actually find it because you will have your life in the kingdom of King David. Mercy and truth is with you. You've got all the tools that you need. You don't need machine guns or artificial intelligent microchips. You'll have mercy and truth on your side. Endure to the end. Go back. Because when I come back, I will reward you according to this work that you've done. Esther, if you are too scared to appear before the king, you'll die together with all the king's house. But if you stand up today and you start working for God's kingdom from the inside of the enemy's kingdom, maybe God has put you there for a time such as this. Maybe David is putting Itahi there for a time such as this. Maybe God is putting us there for a time such as this. Go and pass over. And Itahi, the Gittite, passed over. What is passed over? First of all, it's Pesach. Mercy and truth will be with you. Keep on celebrating these days, even if nobody sees you, even if you do it in secret. Keep on celebrating the feast days. Keep on passing over. Be the Passover follower of the Passover lamb. Be the Passover like Abraham was, who passed over the river to become a Hebrew, Ivrit, passing over. Be the Hebrews that is working like Joseph, inside the king, inside the Antichrist Egyptian sun god system. Go and be the Hebrew passed over inside that system. Itahi, go and be the Passover Hebrew in that system. Esther, be the Passover Hebrew in that system. And all his men and all his little ones with all his family is the Hebrew that goes into the system to serve King David from inside the system there loyally. And all the country wept with a loud voice, and all the people passed over. The king also himself passed over the brook Kidron, and all the people passed over towards the way of the wilderness. So some of us are Hebrews, and we are stuck in the Antichrist system, but we are serving God for a time such as this. But some of us are Hebrews, and we are passing over into the way of the wilderness, into the Kidron Valley. Isn't it the Mount of Olives in the Kidron Valley? Don't we learn about all the slaughtering and Gehenna and the burning of the trash in the fire of the Kidron Valley? Haven't we learned about so many things in the end days that is prophesied to happen in the Kidron Valley? By the Mount of Olives, we'll see in verse 30, David went up by the ascension of Mount of Olives, and he went up and he wept, he went barefoot. We'll get to all that. But this is happening because why? Joshua had to go barefoot and crying, humiliated, into the hiding. He had to go to the Mount of Olives to be executed by the Antichrist system. But he's teaching his children When I come back, I'll reward you. Don't stare into what you see with your eyes. Don't look at my death. He was trying to teach his disciples. He warned them. He gave them prophecies more than enough. But when he died, they all scattered. They didn't do what they were supposed to do if they believed the prophecies. God has given us an opportunity to understand the prophecies. And although our Messiah has gone up on the Mount of Olives, although it looks like he's been burned to ashes in the Kidron Valley, and Absalom is ruling, the Antichrist system is in place. And even when the Antichrist comes, when Absalom is resurrected from the dead through the whole prophetic understanding of Nimrod, there's so much to say about all that, then the whole world will wander after him, and we'll feel so alone. We'll feel so rejected. Will our God come? Like the Bible says, in the end days, they will ask, where's the coming of your God? He's not coming. Rather just join us, because he's not coming back for you. But now these servants are passing over towards the way of the wilderness. And this is such an amazing prophetic picture of the second Exodus. Second Exodus will be like the first. Saul gives us this in Romans and Corinthians over and over again. Even in the book of Hebrews, he says everything that happened in the first Exodus is training for you upon whom the ends of the ages have come. And here we follow our King David, even if it means through the valley, the Kidron Valley, the valley of shadow and death. Your rod and your staff, your mercy and your truth will be with me. Oh, wow. How many correlations in the Bible do we find? Oh, I just have to make a note at Psalm 23. Through the valley of shadow of death, through the Kidron Valley, we follow you. Although it's the way of the wilderness and it's dark and I'm scared, and it's a shadow road we have to travel. We're not sure when we're going to get out of this. We're not sure what the light at the end of this valley of shadow. Your rod and your staff is with us. Your rod is truth. And we might be hidden by the rod of iron, by the rod of truth. It will be difficult and not so easy to endure. But your staff, your mercy, is also with us in this valley, the Kidron Valley, the way of the wilderness valley, the valley of shadow of death. To 2 Samuel chapter 15, now at verse 24. And lo, or look, Zadok, and all the Levites that were with Zadok, who bore the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah, and they set down the ark of Yahuwah, and Abiathar went up until all the people had done passing out of the city. So what's happening here? Zadok and the Levites put the ark down in the Kidron. In the brook is another word for like a river or a stream. So here, King David and all his faithful followers are passing through the stream, the Kidron brook. The Ark of the Covenant is put down, and Abiathar is taking it up again, standing right there, waiting for all the people to pass out of the city, through the Kidron Valley, through the brook Kidron, on the way to the wilderness. Doesn't this remind us over and over again of how the Ark of the Covenant was put down, remember, in the Jordan River, until all the people has passed through into the promised land, and then the water that dried up of the Jordan River, when the Levites pulled the ark up again, and all the people went through, then the water came back. And maybe this is just another reminder of the that God is doing. The Ark of the Covenant is with them. They are not alone. They have Zadok, which means righteousness. And they have Abiathar, which in the Hebrew has a beautiful meaning. Abiathar in the Hebrew is Ab Yatar. Abba, our father. Yatar. Yatar means to exceed, to excel, to remain, to be left, to leave, to cause to abound, to preserve, to be excellent, to leave a remnant, to be plenteous, to make plenty, by preserving, by being left, by resting, yatar, by being the residue, the remnant, standing with the Ark of the Covenant in the Kidron brook until all the people has passed through. By doing that, you are doing it. You cause to make plenteous. You help the people to survive. You make plenty those who would have been killed in the city if they didn't come out under truth and mercy. And the king said unto Zadok, carry back the ark of God into the city. If I shall find favor in the eyes of Yahuwah, he will bring me back again and show me it, the ark, in his habitation. Very interesting that David is now saying, thank you, Father Yahuwah, for being with us through the Kidron Valley. We are now on our way to the wilderness. But I don't need the ark to be with me, to know that you are with me. But I want to twist your arm, Yahuwah. I want to remind you of your promises and your prophecies. I want to remind you of the covenant you made with me. When you will rule and reign, and then my son will rule and reign. And if I follow your ways, you'll always, the throne of David will be established forever. And I know out of my loins must come the Savior. So for me, just as a human being, just to twist your arm a little bit, just to have that faith inside of me that I know you will keep your promises. I'm going to send this golden box back to the city because you've promised that I will die of old age. I'm not going to die by the hand of the Antichrist. I will rule and reign again. So the ark must be in the city so that you can show me both my city and your ark. I will see it with my own eyes again. That means you'll keep your promise and you will bring me back to the city to see the ark and to see your city. Absolutely amazing. I love how we find amazing. I love how we find Abiyatar and Zadok, which the root word is tzaddik, which is righteousness, and how King David, the beloved, with his willingness to die to himself, willingness to flee, willingness to save Jerusalem, not let Absalom destroy it, willing to send the ark back, go barefoot into the wilderness, just to make sure that God will bring the glory, God will bring the victory. It's not up to us. I've got Hittite, what was his name? Ittai. I've got my servants inside the enemy's camp. I've got my servants outside the enemy's camp. I've got everything I need. I've got mercy and truth on my side. Yahuwah, I want you to keep your promises. And I'm going to ask for a sign like you to keep your promises. And I'm going to ask for a sign like Gideon asked for a sign. Take the ark back, because then you don't have a choice. You have to bring me back to Jerusalem. And of course, Yahweh doesn't need his arm twisted. None of the covenants that has ever left his mouth will fall to the ground. But we sometimes need something physical to cling to, like David decided here. This is what I'm going to cling to. Send the ark back. Because this is how God trains us. This is how he teaches us to obey him, but also to trust him. Because he says in Deuteronomy 8 verse 2, you'll remember all the way, all this way of the wilderness in which you are walking, all the way while you are walking, you must remember that the Lord your God have sent you these 40 years into the wilderness to humble you. He's sending David's servants into the wilderness, into the way of the wilderness to humble them, to prove them, to test them, to know what is in their heart, whether they would keep his commandments or not, whether they will suffer hunger and thirst and persecution and cold and everything that is uncomfortable, to see if they believe God, if they've got this Ark of the Covenant to cling to back in Jerusalem, to know that God will indeed always fulfill all his promises and bring them back. This is what God does with us. He lures us, He leads us, He brings us into the wilderness so that He can humble us and test us and make us strong. And let us go through difficult things to test what is really Deuteronomy 8, verse 2 in our hearts. Is His law really written in our hearts? Will we follow? He says in Isaiah 2, verse 14, therefore, behold, I will allure her. I will um, pull her and call her and bring her into the wilderness. But what do I do while we are wandering in the wilderness? Take your pen and underline this in Isaiah 2:14. I will speak comfortably unto her, romantically unto her. I'll teach her everything about my love covenant while she is in the wilderness. She must just hold fast to these words that I'm speaking comfortably to her. Because there will come a time that the remnant must leave Jerusalem. They must leave the 10 women church system, the whore of Babylon, with the 7 heads and the 10 crowns, the 10 horns. These things are very prophetic. We must come out. These things are very prophetic. We must come out of that system. They are a destiny for some people to go through that. Because Yeshua says in Matthew 24, verse 15, when you therefore will see the abomination of desolation, then let those who are in Judea flee into the mountains. Flee into the wilderness by the way of the Kidron Valley. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, or they that are in the field. No, you flee. You follow King David with mercy and truth. You follow Zadok and Abiatar. You be the Abiatar, those who are willing to stand, make plenteous, and do excellent. Because there will come a time to flee as well, just like the time has come for David to flee into the wilderness. Because it's safer to be with God in the wilderness than to be in the city. God in the wilderness than to be in the city. Revelation 18, verse 4, I heard another voice saying, come out of Babylon, my people. Do not be partakers of her sins. Come out. Come, I'm calling you to the wilderness, my people, so that you do not receive of her plagues. Because whoever trusts me and believe me, I will bring you back. I will. Jeremiah 3, verse 13. Only acknowledge your iniquity, that you've transgressed against me, that you did not obey my voice. And I've scattered your ways under the strangers. But turn, O backsliding children, your 10 women, you who are still stuck in the system. Turn back, for I am married to you. You who follow me into the wilderness, you who have come out of Babylon, you who's willing to go over the Kidron Valley, make you one of a city, 2 of a family, and I'll bring you back to Zion. I'll bring you back to Jerusalem. Here the Ark of the Covenant is waiting. I'll bring you back to the Ark of the Covenant, David. Do not worry. I'll give you pastors according to my heart, who will feed you with knowledge and understanding. I'm hoping I am a pastor after Yahuwah's heart. But he's also given me pastors after his heart that has fed me with manna in the wilderness, that has fed me with the Jeremiah 3 verse 15, knowledge and understanding. And I'm hoping that I'm feeding you with the same. So you can see this is an amazing chapter. 2 Samuel 15. This is an amazing prophetic chapter, isn't it? We will return. Do not worry. We will return. Do not worry. Be the Hebrews that passes over. Even if you are the 10 women that's being raped. Even if you are Itahi that's being sent back to serve from within the system. Remember, God cannot break his promises. He will, after 2 days, revive us and raise us up in the 3rd day. Just like when the ark was put down, when the ark was lifted up, Rise up, O Yahuwah, let your enemies be scattered in the book of Numbers. When the ark is put down, return to us, O Yahuwah, we are waiting for you. What a beautiful picture. Yeah, I think we must end here. We'll continue with this